I guess if those were to be categorized in some series type format, this would be under understanding civil government, which mm, on the fly is in some effect a tribute to Henry David Thoreau. Um, I think in sum total, I've been using that term a lot lately. That's okay. Summation, sum total. The only way to achieve what Henry David Thoreau calls for, and that's resistance to civil government in its fullest, truest form, is not, it's a deceptive notion to think that that means protest, in as in heading to the streets and stuff like that, which I have done. I've been arrested for it, went to court, was tried. I bolstered charges. They even tried to get me. They tried to send me to jail for a year with resisting arrest and unlawful assembly, and I took it to a jury trial. Out of the 17 people that were arrested that night, 15 were one was released, and I don't know why. 15 were given tickets. We were all detained overnight. Two were under the age of 15, and they were violently beaten by the cops. I watched with my own eyes when I first got there. They were both hit at least 3 times by 2 separate officers while they were being held down by a third officer and 2 other officers. There were 2 teams of officers, attack teams I call them. I think they call them, or snag grab teams or snatch teams or something like that. And while there were 3 officers on each individual, which were two 15-year-old kids, um, one grabbing, well, 2 were swinging their batons, and it was they were little kids who, the one in particular that I was focused on because of the shock of the moment, um, was trying, it was on his side, trying in desperation to get onto his stomach just out of sheer trauma, while the 2 officers were using their knees to keep him from turning over while they hit him at least 3 times each in rapid recession, screaming at him to get down, get down, get down. While a 4th officer of each team, total of 8, held a tear gas gun pointed to the other people that were around them, and there was no protest at this area. Where this was all bystanders on the sidewalk with no signs and no participation, and actually at least 150 feet away from the protest, which was around the corner and halfway down a block. But these guys were grabbed violently like this, and to disperse the crowd as some kind of tactical precautionary measure, one cop rushed the crowd like part in the Red Seas with a tear gas gun, pointed at everybody saying, get back, get back, while I ended up being basically the other half of the crowd as an individual, but there was about 8 other people or 6 other people on the other side. They included the friend that I got there with. And the guy pointed a shotgun at me in my face and continuing to proceed for me, and I did not move initially because I went there to protest, and I was deciding in that time what I wanted to do and how willing I was to get shot in the face with rubber bullets. And that's a whole nother story of its own. But anyways, I did retreat, so, and there's more that came after that. But anyways, the 15 were, those 2 guys I think ended up getting out, obviously. And they because the cops were doing it so fast and so brutal in this Long Beach, they didn't ask anybody's IDs. I have my phone on me. I have video. I have pictures of these 2 guys too. I took video inside the back of the. It was not smartphones at that time. Took video in the back of the paddy wagon. Took picture inside the holding tank. And the cops beat one of the cops went in there and beat another guy up that was 19 years old and about 5'2" and probably weighed about 135 pounds, and the cop was at least 6'2". I'm 5'11". He was taller than me, and I'm very good at this. I weigh 185 right now, but at that time, I weighed 215, and I could guarantee and vouch for you that the cop weighed at least 240 pounds, steroided out, uh, hormone therapy. Picked the kid up, hit him against the wall, slammed him down on the concrete bench, put his entire weight on the back of his head, and told him to say, "I'm sorry." So, but anyways, I'm getting distracted. This is a series on the understanding government. So, going off of what I kind of feel like I discovered what that Congress is not I don't know what the phrase is for, but I think that Congress is actually the structure of the word is literal. I don't think it's figurative, and I don't think it's some kind of mistake that it's what we would associate with the polar opposite of progress. Congress, in essence, is static. It's intended to be static, as in a republic in some sort of way talks about like recycling the public. If I could put it that way, it's a way of the nation's interest is to not change. The public interest is to change according to the needs, but the congressional thing is to not change. And I think that's a type of discovery, and I think that's a form of resistance to civil government. So going on that thread, and this is building, I really strongly feel I have a, whatever I want to call my sixth sense, that I'm preparing for, been saying this since I was 19 years old, that at the age 40, stop me now, baby, that I'm going to begin writing something. And for some reason, I see me writing till 45. I don't know that it's published or that my life ends. Don't I don't see myself living past 45, to be honest with you. But so towards that end, I keep my eyes open. So I went to the library today, and it was a very deep. I learned a lot at the library today. Some crazy stuff. I learned about a indigenous tribe on an island community that for centuries ate a type of turtle that has since gone extinct, and the turtle had a chemical in it that prevented cellular breakdown, and so these people, they called it Selene syndrome or vampire syndrome, and now it's been a joke out of it or whatnot, but they live centuries like this. I'm 36, and basically I like to think I look youthful in some sense, whatever that means. But I was researching the concept of the bear that I'm going to be tackling with the biblical end times prophecies, which have been imperial prophecies that have been used since since the Russian Revolution, to associate Russia with a end time prophecy that is a warmongering tactic of prominent state orientated, state associated, or state affiliated clergy, which are no different than CIA agents in their agenda, their goal, and their means and their tactics. But towards resisting civil government, while I was researching the bear, and it didn't say what I wanted it to say, and that's fine. I ran across the bull, and I found, whoa, I didn't fully absorb it. Let me just throw out there, and this is from a mythology dictionary. The bull represents force, and I'm just saying, again, I don't know how to really process this. The bull, in one sense, represents force over, it said, the Negro. And I do know that in Greek mythology, It's a story that I'm familiar with, the way with the rape of Europa, and this Zeus turns himself into a white bull and kidnaps a young girl. Just the constant theme, um, and you wonder why young girls are the target of sexual predators. Abraham screwed a teenage girl. Lot, both of his tween daughters. Um, from Mary, at the best, Christians put her at 16, but in all probability, the whole notion of her virgin birth is more along the lines of she just began her cycle, so put her probably around the age of 11 to 13. So, and as God's, uh, whatever you want to call it, and they associate God with the man for a reason. So, um, yeah. Okay, but back to resistance to civil government, which in one sense might be the bull. They use the term breaking the horn. I like that. I'm going to use that in a poem. Ooh, that's why I love mythology. I'm a plagiarist. I try to steal all my imagery from other sources. And so my name is Timothy. My mom holds to the story, and I've shared before that I do believe that I'm a child. It's not even believe. There's no question that I'm a child of rape. There was massive amounts of horrific violence, domestic violence in my household. My brother, who had to live through 9 years of vicious child abuse, um, compounded on the surrounding family, coaxing him that it's going to be okay or something like that, being fully aware. But they also knew about a child sexual predator, serial rapist, and they had my family already demonstrated the tendency of cutting off the victims that came forward 3 times, even raising me. That the first victim to come forward, which was the serial rapist, his name is Rudy, his daughter, that I was raised and taught that she was crazy and a bad person, and that her kids had difficult lives because their mom was a bad person. And then come to the age like 34, I found out that it was actually that she was raped by her father. She told the family, and they expelled her. And then one of his granddaughters, he raped her, and then they kicked her out. And I didn't meet her till she was 40. And then a cousin of mine that I grew up with, that was about a couple years younger than me, she disappeared, I think when I was about 20, and I never connected because I was in and out of jail at that time. And reconnected with her at around 33 to find out that she was being raped by him, and she came forward, and they also cut her off. So my brother was basically another type of victim, not sexual, but he was my mom, who was most like the first victim to be raped by him, but never came out because of the pressure. She realized quick. She's smart, I guess. So in that context, my mom holds this notion that God told her to name me. She had a vision, grandiose. It's a psychological phenomena. She had a grandiose experience that made it all worthwhile. Because just the mere having a child's birth under those circumstances is not anything. That is not to take away from anything that she says either. That makes any sense. It's not. I'm not calling her a liar. I'm just saying that the forces behind her motivation are deeper than she's able to see. But I've seen. Which also brings me real quick on a summary. I don't even have to do a whole video on this. If you watch this, congratulations. I'll tell you the meaning of life. This is the true meaning of life, the summation of all philosophy, religion, science, as to tell your mother the truth. That's it. So, God told her to name her son. She's gonna have a son, name him Timothy Noah. I was born on February 9th, and this is a historical fact that on February 9th, 1978, it rained. That it rained so much on that day that it ended a something like a 4-year drought in California. I was born at Northridge Hospital. The doctor that was supposed to deliver me at a home birth when I was in junior high was arrested for killing something like 24 babies in home deliveries. It was one of the biggest scandals for this hospital. Um, Timothy, from when I was Christian, I held close to Timothy, means honoring God. Timotheus was Paul's little right hand guy. I studied the New Testament. I read it 26 times. So I was very familiar. I'm very familiar with Paul as a person, not just a scholar or whatever it is. As a writer, I was able to connect with his writing. Um, then so I held for a long time, and my middle Noah means brings rest. So I held for a long time, honoring God brings rest. That was my mantra for Christianity. But then now I found some more stuff for my name, Tim. And this all does go, for those of anybody that got this far. I guess I'm going to have to rename this other than just what I wanted to put it because of the distraction. I found, while I was looking up the Dictionary of Philosophy and Religion, democracy. And I think I've come across this before, but I never really looked into it because I got into the Republic, Plato's Republic. So this is from Plato's Republic. Democracy, from the Greek, time, or English time, Time. Translation, honor, and kratos, rule. Government based on the criterion of honor, one of Plato's 5 types of government. Plato, the structure of the state developed in the Republic is an aristocracy, i.e., ruled by the best in society, ruled by the best in the interests of what is best for society. The degenerate forms of society in order are timocracy, where the criterion of selection is honorableness; oligarchy, where the criterion is wealth; democracy, where the criterion is popularity; and tyranny, where the criterion is power. That's from the Dictionary of Religion and Philosophy. Sorry, I'm using my phone to draw from my cheap older phone. Okay, and it just resets by itself. That's from the Dictionary of Philosophy and Religion by William L. Rees, 1996. But I wanted to put in there from the Oxford Dictionary that I use for Latin. Timeo, or timui, is fear, be afraid of, be afraid to. Timor, timorous, fear, object or source of fear, and that's from the Oxford Latin Mini Dictionary. So one time I told the Japanese guy that my name was Tim, and he said, "Tim, really?" And I said, "Yeah." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Tim is how in Japanese for I." And I was like, "I never heard that." He's like, "Yeah, but only the emperor can say it." I like that one too. That was pretty cool. And as funny as it is, seeing Tim and time like this, I've never really. I tried as a tagger to put my name Timmer, but it didn't work out because I gave that up because it came out timer and it just 2 M's didn't look right. So I ended up going with Snex, SNEX. But one of the things that this gave me insight to, along with that Congress thing, is in Plato's Republic is there's 5 forms of government. The distraction, because Plato's writing to people that goal are to be the Congress and the senators. He's not writing to the public in order how to perceive them. He's writing them on how to be perceived by the public. So while there's 5 forms of government in him, that's somewhat of a deflective process or a confusing process, a propaganda type thing, in order to reinforce authoritarian rule in any way, shape, or form. because the summation is always representative government, and that's why it goes with the republic. So there, all five elements of the government are a republic. The people in power are always going to see themselves as an aristocracy. Or you know what I mean? They're going to look at the best of the best. They're not going to see themselves as tyrants. The people who think that they got the people in power are always going to see it as a democracy. The people that ploy off of religious values are always going to feel these are five elements of a republic, and you have to understand how to balance these elements, because the sum of it is there is a tyranny that does exist, and it's not the lowest form, it's the only form of representative government, because they work for their own personal interests. And we see, like, from you have a king with the parliament, or a crown with the parliament, which is a facade, just as much as here. And Huey P. Long is a very popular not a very popular, but a very well-known example of this. Martin Luther King really didn't get into this type of mathematics, but Huey P. Long made a point at the time that he was speaking. There were 4 Americans that had as much wealth as the bottom 50% of the country. And at that time, I think it was 200 million. So that is a republic. There is no other structure available to a republic. There are multiple elements to a republic that are all based on perception. And Plato's The Republic is just like Machiavelli's The Prince, and it's just like Sun Tzu's The Art of War. It's not for people like that are considered the plebes or the plebiscites, or what I would consider the plebeians, the lower class, the working class, the dregs, the slaves, the untouchables, to understand so that we can have a fair fight. No, when these were written, we didn't know how to. They never intended us to be able to read them or understand them. Reading was a very protected art. The fact that we could read now has been a mild inconvenience, but it hasn't provided us any greater advantage than the previous generations who had no opportunity to read. But you do see it. What they call progress is basically, it's not progress because nothing has changed, but these pieces of literature that I mentioned were written for what would be considered the political initiates, the power initiates, on how to absorb, control, manage, and expand power. The better you are, the more powerful you got. And in the process, you're going to make enemies, so you have to know how to deal with your enemies mafia style. But it is the same thing. The Art of War, the Plato's Republic, and Machiavelli's The Prince, and I'm sure there's more writings. The polar opposite, the kryptonite to them, the most powerful piece of literature that strikes at the heart of what they're trying to accomplish is Henry David Thoreau's On the Duty of Civil Disobedience at Best. And I want to make a point that was written in response to a document that was written by William Paley, whose later descendant, also named William Paley, founded CBS with the I, Columbia Broadcasting. Oh, and another thing before I close this video, in all this study I realized what colonel means. I always wonder why colonel is spelled so wrong in the military. C-O-L-O-N-E-L. L is God. Colon is colony. It's the colonial god. It's a very disgusting term when you really get into it. The role of a colonel, and if you don't understand Colonel James Steele's role in the American military, you'll see what colonel really means. It's a massacring murder. You have to be a mass murderer to be a colonel, and nothing less. So, here's my resistance to civil government.